steps of the Capitol, we celebrate the extraordinary progress that our historic majority, led by so many outstanding freshmen, has advanced. The American people elected a House majority that would be for the people, ensuring government works for the people's interest, not the special interest. We promised to lower health care costs and have sent 10 bills to the Senate to reduce prescription drugs prices, protect the pre-existing condition, and reverse the GOP's sabotage of health care. We promised lower health care costs, increase workers' paychecks, and we gave 33 million workers a pay raise by raising the minimum wage, passed paycheck fairness, equal pay for equal work, and passed key investments in job-creating infrastructure, as well as protecting the pensions of our workers. Lower health care costs, bigger paychecks, cleaner government. We promised to clean up corruption, and in March we passed H.R. 1, the For the People Act, to reduce big, dark money in politics, advance fair and secure elections, and restore ethics to government, and at the same time, fight against any foreign intervention into our elections. Our members will, in the month of August, our members will accelerate a drumbeat across the nation. We will own August for the people. We will own August, make it too hot to handle for the Senate not to take up our bills. To lower health care costs, bigger paycheck, cleaner government, for the people, too hot to handle. We're going to own August. With that, I'm pleased to yield to the distinguished Assistant Speaker, Mr. Lohan.
Well, good morning, everybody, and Speaker Pelosi, thank you for bringing us together today as we have a conversation with the American people about the first 200 days of work that has been done on behalf of the people all across the United States of America. And as the Assistant Speaker, I've had the honor of working with the new members across America that help flip Republican seats to restore checks and balances, to protect our democracy, but to deliver for working families across the country. For the last 200 days, we've been working with colleagues who have sent their message across America, but many of them who have held more public events in their districts than their predecessors had. The Republicans that they defeated had in the previous 2 years, 4 or even 6 years. And think about what I just shared with you. There was a commitment made by our new colleagues to say that they would make themselves available in all corners of their congressional districts. They've held over 300 town halls, over 2,000 events in their districts. Members like Andy Kim, who held more town halls in 3 months than the Republican that he defeated held in the previous 2 years. Members like Haley Stevens, who will visit 24 townships in 24 days during the August recess. Joe Neguse, who has found a way to meet with constituents and contribute to public service by creating community service town halls. That's what this is all about. And so we're delivering for the American people. We will own August. We will continue to work on behalf of the great people and deliver on the great agenda that was put forth to make a positive difference in the lives of the American people. And with that, I'm pleased to turn this over to one of my colleagues, one of my friends, the powerhouse from Michigan, Congresswoman Debbie Dingell.
Thank you, Congressman Lujan. Last fall, the American people overwhelmingly spoke up and sent to Congress the most diverse freshman class ever. 200 days into the Democratic majority, together our caucus has fought to protect people with pre-existing conditions and has delivered on lowering health care costs and prescription drug prices for people. Whether I'm at a town hall, I'm at Mass, getting my hair done, or at the grocery store. I've had much of it where I am. I hear from people who are scared to death about changes to their health care and their ability to access affordable, quality health care. Patients are fearful about how much the next trip to the pharmacy will cost them, and if they can pay at all. And one example, you've heard about the insulin, you've heard about the EpiPen. I keep walking around with this inhaler. It's $700. A mother of two working 2 jobs, still at the poverty line, has a child with asthma and has to figure out how she pays for this for her child. The fact is, more and more Americans are delaying, they are rationing, or they're skipping their treatments and not getting their medicine at all. Earlier this year, the House Democrats passed a package to lower prescription drug costs by increasing generic competition and expanding and improving the healthcare marketplace for all consumers while protecting people with pre-existing conditions. Further, the Energy and Commerce Committee has passed strong legislation to protect patients from surprise billing. You know how many, my bills at home from John are that thick still. People just don't understand what it is. And increased transparency in drug pricing. Lowering prescription drug prices and health care costs will take all of us working together. House Democrats are never going to stop listening to people. We're never going to stop fighting for the people. And we are going to deliver for them because they deserve it. So now I want to turn this over to my fabulous freshman colleague, who's a nurse with heart and compassion and understands these issues, Congressman Lauren Underwood.
In the first 200 days, House Democrats have delivered transformative progress for the people, especially for Americans who fear the Trump administration's continual assault on health care that will destroy coverage for pre-existing conditions and drive up health care costs. As a nurse and as a person with a pre-existing condition, I know firsthand how important it is for us to fight for these protections that people rely on. It's why the people sent us here. On day one, we got straight to work and voted to throw the full legal weight of the U.S. House of Representatives against President Trump's heartless lawsuit to strike down protections for 130 million people with pre-existing conditions. In our appropriations process in June, we voted to cut off funds for the Department of Justice that's using to undermine the Affordable Care Act in Texas versus U.S. And we won't stop fighting to protect access to care. This spring, we passed important legislation to crack down on junk health insurance plans that do not have to cover people with pre-existing conditions or provide essential health benefits like maternity care and prescription drugs, plans that send costs skyrocketing for people with pre-existing conditions. And we've just gotten started. It hasn't been easy, and it's going to continue to be a fight as President Trump and Republicans try to deny important protections every day in the courts, in our state houses, and here in Congress. But House Democrats came ready for the fight. And as we've shown in these last 200 days, we're not taking our foot off the gas until every American has access to quality, affordable health care. I'd now like to bring up Congressman Cartwright.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for turning out this morning. You know, Debbie Dingell's right. We are working hard to bring down the enormous cost of prescription medications. Lauren Underwood is right. We are working overtime to make sure that health care is affordable and available to all Americans. And as part of the For the People challenge and promise, we are also fulfilling the promise to make wages increase for millions of American workers. As part of that agenda, Democrats are taking steps to increase workers' wages and rebuild America. We know there's work to be done to upgrade our nation's roads and bridges and sewer systems and water systems, and we are turning that challenge into an opportunity to raise wages by investing in our national infrastructure, by believing in ourselves as Americans, and by creating millions of jobs along the way. I'm proud to say the House has already approved over $70 billion to invest in American infrastructure, and there's more to come. As we've worked to raise wages for the American people, we've also passed bills that will save American pensions. Just last night, we passed the Butch-Lewis Act, which will save the pensions of over 1 million American workers and retirees. This bill will ensure that our seniors can put food on their tables, and they're able to afford their medications and live with dignity. That's what the Democrats are focused on, working for the people. And we're doing it because we understand a simple truth, that when we invest in our communities, when we raise wages for the middle-class Americans, everybody wins. Thank you for listening, and I want to turn it over to a wonderful Congressman, Katie Hill from California, who has emerged as a real leader. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And my name is Katie Hill, and I'm the Congresswoman for California's 25th Congressional District. And I'm also one of the youngest women in Congress, both in this class and in history. Because of that, I've seen the effects of a low minimum wage and the wage gap on young people, people of color, and women specifically. I've been a server myself, working my way through college, and I worked in minimum wage restaurants not even that long ago. In my previous career as the executive director of the largest homeless services organization in the state of California, I saw so many people who worked full-time and still could not afford a place to live. And I know that if we ever want to deal with issues like the housing crisis, the student loan debt crisis, and all of the other barriers between my generation and the American dream, it all starts with people earning a fair living wage. And that's why in our first 200 days, the House passed the Raise the Wage Act and the Paycheck Fairness Act. Every single day, we were fighting for Americans like the people in my district, union members, hardworking single moms, struggling young people, regular families who were just trying to make it into the middle class. This is why we're here, and we will deliver. Thank you. And I'd like to bring up my friend and colleague from California, Congressman Ted Lieu.
Thank you. Americans across the political spectrum are exasperated that they see a government that is not working for them and instead working for special interests. That's why last year Democrats pledged to clean up corruption in Washington, D.C. And this year, the House Democratic Caucus has delivered. We passed the For the People Act, also known as H.R. 1. This legislation will restore the promise of our democracy and repair our democratic institutions. Specifically, it will get rid of the dominance of big money in politics. It enacts strict new ethics rules, and it also mandates safe elections. Yesterday's hearings with Special Counsel Robert Mueller also showed that both Democrats and Republicans agreed that the Russians attacked us in a sweeping and systematic manner in 2016. That's why we need to pass the SAFE Act, also known as Securing America's Federal Elections Act. This bill will require that voting systems, which have long been vulnerable to hacking, be required by the National Science Foundation to develop accessible voter-verified paper ballot voting systems. Specifically, this bill, starting with elections in 2020, will require voting systems for federal elections to be manufactured right here in the United States and to make sure that paper ballots are made available for verification by the voter before the vote is cast. This was also passed by the House Democratic Caucus. Both the SAFE Act and the For the People Act are in front of the U.S. Senate. As Speaker Pelosi said, we need to make it too hot to handle for them. We need the U.S. Senate to take up these bills so that we can restore the promise of our great country. And now I'm going to introduce the terrific Congressman Dean Phillips from the great state of Minnesota, who's going to talk more about efforts to clean up corruption.
Thank you, Ted, and I'm Dean Phillips. I've never been so humbled and so honored to work in these times, in this building, and with the most extraordinary group of human beings I've ever had the honor to work with as those behind me. And 2 years ago, I made a decision, just like the rest of the freshman class, a decision to get off of the sidelines and run for office, because I was sick and tired of watching a political system that gives special treatment to special donors, a political system that effectively legalizes corruption, and a political system that disenfranchises millions of people who've lost faith that they matter and that their votes are secure. That is why the first bill that we introduced with our new House majority was H.R. 1, the For the People Act. It puts government back into everybody's hands, and that is where it belongs. By reducing the influence of big money in our politics, by enhancing election security, by cleaning up corruption, and placing the common interest over the special interest. And while we are all appalled that Mitch McConnell will not even bring up H.R. 1 for a vote on the Senate floor, we are not discouraged. For we are Democrats, and we will never stop fighting until political power is returned to its rightful home in the hands of the people. And my friends, change is coming, and we are just getting started. With that, I turn it over to my dear friend and colleague from the great state of Rhode Island, David Cicilline.
Good morning. House Democrats promised the American people in the last election that if you gave us the responsibility of leadership again, we would fight for the people against the special interests, and we would deliver on the important priorities of the American people: driving down health care costs, driving down the cost of prescription drugs, raising family incomes as we rebuild the infrastructure of America, and taking on the corruption and self-dealing in Washington and getting the government to work for the people of this country again. We are delivering on those promises. Today, we mark 200 days in the majority. We passed nearly 400 pieces of legislation, 50 major bills. This is the most productive House in modern history. Last week, we voted to give a raise to 34 million Americans, guaranteed equal pay for equal work, 10 bills to drive down the cost of prescription drugs and to protect coverage for pre-existing conditions, and the biggest and most comprehensive anti-corruption bill seen in Congress in decades. All of those bills are sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk, and the President and Mitch McConnell need to get to work to bring those bills to the Senate floor so we can complete our work for the American people. We're going to use our August recess, August work period, to report to the American people about the work that we have gotten done on their behalf, that we're going to continue to fight to make sure these become law in the Senate. And there's a lot of coverage about oversight and investigations. This is our opportunity to report back to our constituents and delivering on our promise to deliver for the people of this country. Thank you.
All right, are we ready to make August too hot to handle? For the people. Thank you all.
到处找出他总有事情搞出来的嘛。如果他是老实的话。